Welcome back to the channel. Today I have some really cool stuff going on this little 1.4 turbo motor. What we have here, I'm just going to give you a quick parts rundown for kind of everything that we have here. This is all the stuff so far that I've picked up for doing the swap. Now I am waiting on pretty much like one other thing, but let's just kind of go over the stuff, the basic things that you're going to need. Obviously you're going to need to get yourself a big turbo. This is one that I picked up here from Torque Motorsports. This is the stage 3 big turbo that they sell. It's still used, but it has pretty low miles on it. It doesn't have any shaft play or anything like that, so I think we're all good there. Now, the software that I'm going to be using, I'm going to be sticking with Eurocompulsion, who already did my tune that's currently on the car with the Phase 2. I figured stick with them. I already have their handheld device. I'm familiar with how to upload tunes and do stuff with them. So we're gonna stick with them and do the Phase 3. I've already purchased the tune and I filled out one of the tune request forms. I've showed you guys how to do that in my previous videos for how to set up the Eurocompulsion and get the tune and put it on your car. But anyways, I've sent them the tune file for everything that we're gonna be running here on this big turbo, and they have already sent me a tune back that is ready to be uploaded onto the car. So we will do that once we install all of our goodies here. You're also going to need some bigger fuel injectors. These are the Bosch 550cc injectors. Now, do not skimp on your injectors. There's a lot of cheap aftermarket ones and also a bunch of different fake ones. So make sure that you do buy authentic, good Bosch injectors or another brand that's decent. And there's the part number for you too, 0280-158-117. Gasket set for the turbo. This is the Forge wastegate actuator that is required for this tune in order to do it. The stock wastegates on these cars aren't going to be able to hold up as well, and they're just not as strong. Well, that's enough talking for an intro for me. Let's get to work here. So we're going to start by just pulling off some of these lines, get this turbo blanket off here, get this bracket off, expose our turbo. I'm probably going to have to end up pulling the shield off of the bottom possibly, because we may need to remove this downpipe to get that out of the way. Let's just start getting some of this stuff out of here. Next, we're just going to pull this intake off here real quick and start loosening up all these hoses here with just a flathead screwdriver. I will say all of these clamps right here that I use, these I think they're called worm clamps, we're going to be replacing every single one of these. I said I wanted to do that, and I finally picked up a set of these clamps right here that should work a lot better. These are just the pinch style. And then pull it down, it should release just like that. We'll get this little vacuum hose off right here that goes to the bottom of the turbo. Downpipe bolt with the V-band right here, 10 millimeter. Crack this loose. I just got the undercover tray, it's over there, off the car. So now everything is exposed from the bottom side. And I'm down here looking at the intercooler pipe. I need to remove, it's just a hex bolt. I need to remove this one bracket so that way I can pull this pipe down and we can get the bottom hose off of the turbo. So we're just gonna break this loose real quick. Here's the gasket piece that fell off. Make sure that you don't lose it. There's gonna be 4 bolts. One here, and then 2 on the other side. So we'll just start by removing the shield right here. It's 8 millimeter there, and then an 8 millimeter there. Then we should be able to drop the shield from the manifold, and that hopefully will give us a little bit more access. It looks like there is a third. If you look at it from over here, I have this wrench on it right now. It's on the back. It's a nut that comes, my ratchet's on it right here. You can see the tip of it right there. You can get to it from the front over here if you have a 10, it's a 10 millimeter. If you have a deep socket and an extension, you can get to it from the front side. I don't have that socket on me right now, so I'm just using a wrench from over here and kind of working it like this. But once you get this off, that should be able to free our shield cover piece. Now I have this manifold piece in here loose and flopping around. I can't quite remove it all the way because of some of these lines off of the turbo are restricting it from going any further. So we're gonna start removing some of these lines on here. You have this one up front with this giant like hex style type bit here. You have this one right here on the top. There's also another one on the backside right there. I also did pinch off the coolant line right here that goes on top. Make sure to use, like, I have a pair of vice grips, but use a rubber piece here so that way you don't damage your hose. This kind of protects it. Make sure to have a rag ready because these may start dripping either oil or coolant depending on which one you remove. I don't know what exactly this bit is, but I just found a big giant hex bit, just a random one in my tool bench. We're gonna throw it in here. Hopefully this will work. Yeah. We got one more on the backside right here, which is a 19 millimeter as well. We just got the backside off. There's also one more right down here where this coolant hose goes. It's a hex star bit key type thing. It's a T30. That's what we're using here. We'll get this in here, just crack this loose, and this probably will leak a little bit too. Just so you know, so make sure to get like a towel down under there. This is the piece right here. You can see up top, this is the bolt. This is the one that actually goes to the very back. You can see it's not in there right now because it's right here. I took it out. So you can get this piece right out of the way here. Gives you a little bit more room in here to work. And now we're gonna see, with all these lines off here, we should be able to remove this manifold shield piece right down here. One more line. So this one right down here on the very bottom side, it's also one of the ones that the shield keeps banging into in the front, and the reason why we can't remove it. This should be the oil return line, so we'll have to come down here and see where this is going to. Now you can see the underside of the turbo way up there. This is the line that I'm talking about that comes down. So if we follow this line down, it actually goes right behind this cover piece right here. This has a bunch of the Allen Starbit style keys. There's one here behind the intercooler pipe, one up there on the top right corner, right by like my middle finger there. There's also one on the back side up in here. So we'll get all these pieces off to remove like this mesh blankety type material, and then we should have access to be able to remove that. All right, so once you get your cover piece off, just looks like this. This is what it looks like in here. Kind of weird, we have one big bolt right here that goes in, and then this is the other one. This is for the oil return that goes straight into the pan. This one's a Starbit key, this one's a big socket bolt. Both of those will need to get removed in order to pull this off. It might be easier to remove it from just the bolts up top. They're kind of really far to get to. Manifold to turbo bolts. We have the first one off right here. This is the easiest one to get to. We're working on the back one. Take a 13 millimeter wrench. If you have a ratcheting wrench like this one works okay so far. And it's kind of like a slim profile. Go ahead and use that. That should save you a bunch of time. But these aren't coming off super easy, but you are able to get them off. They're just going to take a little bit of time and some work. We have the two bolts off of the turbo from over here. I have the front left one from this side over here, and I'm currently working on the back side one. Now I was able to get this oil return line off just by actually taking a ratchet and just working it right in here, so we didn't have to remove it from the pan or anything down there. So that's disconnected now. And then also there's a line that comes over the backside over the top. It's actually this line right over here that would be going over the top. I was able to snake this down and push it down into here. This is flexible line. at least that portion is down there. So I was able to bend this under the wastegate actuator and get this out of the way so we'd actually have some room to get in here. It's not much room, but this is our last bolt that we need to get off. Now we can just pull straight up. There we go. Just like so, we are now out. I just wanted to do a quick side-by-side comparison to kind of take a look at the inside and see what the difference is. So here on the right side, we have a bone stock Dodge Dart turbo. And then here on the left is the Torque big turbo. Now these bolt directly up to the car, no modifications are necessary. And the difference in size here, I'm just trying to show you guys so we can get a better idea. I don't know if you can quite tell because the lighting isn't the greatest, but stock on the right, big turbo on the left. There is a huge difference that I can see just by the eye. I believe the stock, the turbine in here that we're looking at is a 34 millimeter turbine in here. And then this has a 1752 internals on it, has close to a 42 millimeter in here. So there's about an 8 millimeter difference in the bigger one that we're going to be putting into the car here. We're just going to clean up in here really quickly. There's looks like some crap on the manifold here. I don't like to put parts back together that are dirty. You can see here is your gasket. We're probably going to replace this since I did buy another one that came in a kit, so we'll hold on to that. I'm going to swap over my diverter valves that I have. So I have the Go Fast Bits diverter valve with the Forge diverter valve plate. That's my setup that I'm running. I know Euro Compulsion says that you should go to the actual Forge atmospheric wastegate one and switch over to that because it's stronger and better than this one. This is still an improvement over your stock diverter valve, which looks like this right here. If I run into issues of this leaking, then I may have to change it up a little bit and go to something different, but for now we'll be running this. I will need to remove at least one of these studs here so I can put it into our new one so we have enough to go all the way around. I didn't buy new ones because I figured I'd still be able to reuse these old ones. So I have a 5.5 millimeter socket here that we're going to put on the end of this. I also did spray some WD-40 on it to hopefully kind of loosen it up a little bit in here. So we'll see if we can break this loose. That did work, which is great. We will now take that off and we'll thread it into our new one over here. I temporarily got this line on here. I'm not going to tighten this up until I get it on the car, and I may need to swivel this back or forth, so we're going to wait until we do that. This is the gasket kit that I bought right here. I think the brand, there's the brand, MAHLE. I bought this to do the turbo here, and all these gaskets on here suck, if you ask me. I'm probably not going to use any one of these. Some of these O-rings here, the copper washers didn't even fit the right size bolts. So I'm just going to run my same factory ones, and especially for 70 bucks, this was not worth it. I just ran into my first hiccup for doing this install here, putting on the Forge wastegate. Now, I bought this from Euro Compulsion. I wish they would have mentioned something. You do need to modify something on here in order to get this to fit properly. So these bolts that come out right here, they're very firm and they're strong bolts, versus the stock actuator. These have quite a bit of play to them and these can move around. Stock actuator fits up perfectly and is able to come over this here without any issues. The issue with this Forge one that we're seeing here is if I go to try and put this on the rod here, so the rod's all the way back, if I go to try and pull this up, I can't because the rod is hitting right back in here, right by where this nut is. And it's specifically hitting on this top one right here. So, looks to me like we're gonna have to clearance and take off a little bit of material on this turbo housing here in order to get this rod to actually fit up here. I had to go get a carbide bit from the store for the Dremel tool. You can see we definitely clearanced this out quite a bit compared to what it was. You can see all that extra space that I just did there. Looks like I have plenty of room now. And also I did remove the entire turbo from the housing. It's only, I think 4 or 5 8mm bolts. I just drilled out both of these actuator bolts, so they're a little bit bigger, so I should have some room to slide around that actuator a little bit more. I used a 5/16 drill bit, put it on the press, and it worked. It came out super nice. I'm definitely happy with it. I'm not gonna go any bigger. This looks like it'll be plenty big enough. So let's get this all back together again. I just cleaned this up, got all the metal shavings out of here. Hopefully this will be the last time and all the modifications that I'll need to do. Just so you guys can see, I'm gonna show you we have a little bit more room for play on this actuator when it's actually on here. So I don't have it bolted down yet, but we can move this a little bit this way. One more thing with this actuator. This little vacuum port that you want right here for your wastegate actuator line, you want this facing pretty much coming forward right here. So we'll need to crack this open. I have a Allen key right here. I couldn't tell you what size it is, but there's all these screws that go all the way around, and we'll have to undo all of them. And this is under pressure because there's a spring inside of here. So be careful when you do remove this, because this can come flying off on you. But we're gonna have to remove this so that way we can spin this and move this, I don't know, probably only 1 or 2 of these threads twisted this way, so that way we can get it facing forward. We need to set our wastegate pressure on this. To do this, you're gonna push this piece all the way back. Now we need to take this rod here and either turn it, loosen it, or tighten it, depending, to where this piece will fall right onto this piece without pulling this back. Yep, and it looks like it just went on without any tension on it. So this is basically our 0 right here. Any actuator, you want pressure on it. So we're gonna take this and do 2 full turns with this in order to give us a little bit of tension, because you don't want no tension on this. You do want at least some tension. So let's take this off here. We're gonna do 2 turns. So it's half a turn, 1 turn, 1/2, 2 turns. So 2 turns right here. And then we're gonna take this and we will need to pull on it. So you might need a pair of pliers to pull here and stretch it over this piece. All right, our little C-clip right here, put it on here to secure it. So we'll get this clipped on. Just like that, she is in loosely. We'll get these bolts on the bottom side first. I'm gonna get kind of everything in here loosely, and then we'll snug everything down once I feel comfortable that everything is in place. All right, guys, I got pretty much everything mocked up in here. I know I didn't really show it. I will say I had a ton of issues getting this turbo in here. I don't know what the deal is, if it's maybe a tiny bit bigger than stock, but I just wanted to give you a couple pointers. The oil return line on the bottom, I had to end up removing it from the pan, and there's also one really big bolt down there in order to get this turbo actually in the car. And I had to pretty much bolt in this bottom part here for that oil return line before I was even able to get this part seated into here. So you are probably going to need to remove those parts down there. Now I put it all back together. It was very tight, and hopefully I didn't strip anything. Also, one of these water the coolant feed lines, the one on the back, that one right back there was extremely hard to get on and get aligned. I did have to actually bend the wire piece a little bit in order to get that in there. Eventually I was able to get it to go, and you can also see right over here, this is very close to the turbo piece right here where our intercooler pipe's gonna go. So we're gonna have to see if we can get our pipe in there, or if we're gonna have to maybe bend this a little bit. But no issues with this front line here, and same thing, this top line was just fine. From here it's pretty much home free. We'll get all of our lines hooked back up, replace all of my little clamps. A little bit harder than I was expecting, and ran into quite a few hurdles. It's not an easy swap and drop. I was not able to get this manifold shield piece in there. It was just way too difficult with that one oil return line. We have all new clamps on everything on this car all the way around. These ones are going to be much better, and they shouldn't cut into any of these hoses, so we shouldn't have any issues with the vacuum leaks. We have the intake back on. We're going to put the bigger injectors in the car, and I also did get the stage 3 tune back from Euro Compulsion, so we're going to upload that onto the car. Let's plug in our OBD2 port here. For pulling these fuel injectors, we're going to start by just moving some stuff out of the way. We're going to take this hose out of here, get this out of here, take a couple of these red hoses, the vacuum lines, get these out of here, take off this spark plug piece right here, 2 10mm bolts, one here, one there. Maybe unclip a couple of these connectors that we need to, and start working our way down there to get to those. And just rotate it to the side. Now we have a couple of clips here on the back side. You can see these all have the yellow tabs. There's 4 of them. We're gonna take these out so that way we can get this entire piece out of the way right here. And then underneath that, we should have decent access to our fuel rail and our injectors. Get underneath it, lift up a little bit, and it'll pop right up. We'll do the same on all of them here. Wiggle it a little bit. All right, so now this whole piece is out here. It looks like there might be, there's one little clip here that we just need to pry off of there, and then we can set this off to the side over here. Now we gotta work on pulling our fuel rail out. So you'll see this black loom right here. There's 2 clips holding this in, one right here and another one right over here. This is what the clip looks like. It's just a push one. And then we'll have looks like a star bit key down here behind this loom. I don't know what size that is, but I'll find out, and we'll get this one out and that one out behind this clip once we get that off in just a second here. T30, I have it set up on the wrench, so we'll get that one cracked loose, and then our other one. And before you do that, here is going to be your fuel feed line into your rail. You're probably going to want to remove this first, so that way you can actually take your rail out of here, because this is another thing that's holding it on. To get this off, you can see there's that little white strip right there. You're going to want to push on that white strip while you're pulling it up. So you need to push in decently hard while you're pulling up, and put a rag underneath that. I have a couple rags right here because this is going to leak out some fluid. Star bit keys out here. So we'll get these 2, recover the bolts, and we should maybe be able to lift the fuel rail up and out of here. This fuel rail is loose in here. What I'm doing is I'm just taking a screwdriver, putting it right here, resting it on the valve cover, and we're just gonna kind of wiggle it while I pry up on this a little bit, and it should break this loose. There are O-ring seals on the bottom that's kind of what's securing it in. So once we break it loose, just like so, it should be out of here now. And now we just have the clips to take out, but at least we can pull this up and have a little bit better access to getting these clips out of here. It looks like it can go right behind this metal bar. We'll lift it up behind that. Last thing we'll need to do is pull off the clips right here, and then I'll show you how to install the new injectors on here. Push on this, hold your injector, wiggle it, pull it off. Now on each one of these, there's these clips, these metal clips that go on these to secure them in. So I'm gonna set this down for a second and I'll show you what you do here. So you wanna take these clips and put your thumbs on both sides. You should be able to push it off. Kind of push it back and forth with your hand. All right, and there that goes. This is what the clip looks like, and then you can take the actual injector here and just twist this ever so carefully to pull it out. I got the old injectors taken out. They're all right here. I wasn't able to show on camera me pulling it out, but it did pull out. Definitely had to give it a good tug. And this rail is full of fuel. I dumped it all over the place, including myself. So that kind of sucks, but we're gonna get the new injectors in here. These are Bosch 550cc injectors that I'm going with on this car. That's what is recommended. That's what a lot of people are running. As far as the harness itself, it uses the same harness that comes on these, which is really nice and convenient. And they should be a great pair for this car. For installing these injectors, best way that I've heard to do this, take a little bit of motor oil. This is the same oil I use for the car, and we're just gonna dab a little bit on our finger here. Let's get a little bit on here, and then we'll just come around each one of these O-rings and just make sure that it gets a little bit of lubrication on here, so that way these don't tear when you install them. We're not trying to soak them, we're just trying to get them a little bit wet before we place them in the actual rail. Stick these in here, make sure to give them a good twisty when you are installing them, and then seat them all the way in there. So now that that's in, we can take our clip, and this goes in from the back side. Now that the fuel rail is pushed in, it went in really well. We got to get these clips in here. So you can do these once it's already in here, like I'm doing right now. You'll just push it on, you'll hear an audible click, just like that, and then push down on your red tab. We're gonna do a quick time lapse for the rest of this, just putting the AOS box on, getting this harness back in there, and putting these hoses back in place. Should be pretty quick and easy, and then hopefully we can do a startup. Blankets back on, this piece is back on. Everything to my knowledge is on this car set and ready to go for this tune. So we're gonna do a startup. Hopefully it starts up. The tune should be loaded onto the car. Everything should be good to go there. We have the battery reconnected. We're gonna go cycle the key, make sure their fuel gets up to the fuel rail, wait a minute to start it, and then we'll try to crank it over and see if it'll start up. Clutch in. Go. Our air fuel ratio gauge, right now that's on the money. It is going, well, it is going a little bit leaner. We want it to be around 14.7, 14.8. Right now it's low 15, so it's not terrible. And hopefully these RPMs will drop. I'm gonna let it warm up for a little bit longer, and then we'll pull it out. I've been running for about 2 minutes now. You can see my temps getting up there. It's about a quarter of the way. No check engine lights on here. The AFRs, it's kind of been jumping around. It was right at the high 14s where you want it, but it's kind of sitting in the at 15 to 16 range, which is a little bit higher than you'd like to see. I also did notice when you do hit the gas, so we'll give it a little bit of gas here, this will go to the rich side, which is good. That's what you want, and that's also what it wasn't really doing before. So I'll give it a little bit of gas here, and you can kind of see. It goes a little bit more richer when you're on the gas, actually really rich. So that's some stuff that needs to be cleaned up, but it's also not terrible because it's better for your car to run rich than lean, especially when you're on the gas. No leaks. And that's what I'm most happy about. We'll finally go take it down the road and see if it's okay. Right now we're cruising third gear. We're only at 2,000 RPMs, and we can see the AFR gauge is in the 13s. I've noticed just kind of driving it, anytime you get on the gas just a little bit, it definitely goes rich. So if I give it a little bit of gas here, hardly anything, I'm not even into boost, and you can see we're hitting in the 12s. I've seen in the 11s and 13s. We're gonna throw a little bit of boost into it here and see what it can do. We'll start in second gear. Sorry, so second. All right, let's get on it. We'll keep an eye on stuff here. So that's 10 pounds. I just want you guys to listen to the sounds that this turbo is making right now, because it sounds nothing like stock. So let's get onto it a little bit here, a couple times. Whew. Those backfires too are crazy on this right now. that's going to be a wrap for this video. This is going to be a little bit more of a lengthy video, but I know I haven't posted anything in a minute. I don't like making stuff super long because I feel like you guys don't watch it, but also there's a lot of stuff that we just did to this car, and there's no way that you can explain that or do that in just a short little video. So it might be a little bit lengthy, but hopefully you guys watch it. And if you are doing this to your car, hopefully my tips and tricks might help you guys out with that. Thanks for tuning in, and I will look forward to posting a couple more videos in the future. We'll get a couple flybys and some other cooler stuff that I'm gonna also be installing to this next, but it is not finished. We're still doing a couple more things, and obviously I still need to get all the tuning and stuff like that sorted out with this so I can actually kind of start driving it a little bit more. I'll see you in the next one.